The security supervisor changed the code monthly, always posted the new one in the break room, always assumed janitors couldn't read numbers. The code beeped acceptance. The rooftop door opened. The Sikorsky S-76 sat in the center of the helipad, $3 million of precision engineering, Victoria's personal transport, the aircraft she'd fly to Boston in 5 days for the biggest deal in company history. The aircraft that would kill her if Elijah did nothing. He approached slowly. Security cameras covered the roof, but Elijah knew their blind spots, had mapped them during his first month, the way he'd mapped security in forward operating bases in Iraq. Always have an escape route, always know where the cameras point, always assume someone's watching. The helicopter's maintenance panel opened with a quarter turn of 3 fasteners. No lock, no alarm. Why would there be who would sabotage a helicopter on a corporate rooftop? Elijah inspected the hydraulic lines. Twin systems, redundant, the kind of engineering that made catastrophic failure nearly impossible, unless someone made it possible. He touched the hydraulic fluid, rubbed it between his fingers, brought it to his nose. Wrong. MILPRF 83282. The standard stuff, but mixed with something else, something that would bond to the hydraulic system at normal temperature, dissolve at altitude, crystallize when the temperature dropped below 40 degrees. At 10,000 feet, the temperature was -5 degrees Fahrenheit. The hydraulics would freeze. Lock up. No control input. The helicopter would fall like a stone. Victoria would have maybe 30 seconds before impact. Not enough time to react. Not enough time to pray. Just like her father. Elijah closed the panel, left everything exactly as he'd found it. He couldn't drain the fluid. Graham would notice, would redo the sabotage, might accelerate the timeline, might do something worse. But Elijah could modify it. The maintenance schedule showed the helicopter flew every Tuesday and Thursday. Victoria's commute to the satellite office, 90-mile round trip. Those flights stayed below 3,000 feet. The contaminated fluid wouldn't crystallize at that altitude. But the Boston flight on the 15th would climb to 10,000 feet, would stay there for 45 minutes. Elijah had 5 days to decide if Victoria Ashford deserved to live. 5 days to choose between a woman who humiliated him and a daughter who needed him. 5 days to figure out if doing the right thing would cost him everything again. The sun broke the horizon. Orange light spilled across the rooftop, across the city, across Elijah's hands that still smelled like contaminated hydraulic fluid and old sins. He descended the stairs. Clocked out at 6:03 a.m. Walked the 15 blocks home in the cold morning air. Maya would wake soon, would need breakfast, would need her father to pretend the world was safe. Elijah unlocked the apartment door. The smell of home, clean and poor and his. He had 5 days. The countdown had begun. Wednesday, March 15th, 7:00 a.m. T3 days. The morning after discovering Jonathan's video, Maya wouldn't eat breakfast. She sat at their small kitchen table, oatmeal cooling in the bowl, spoon untouched, eyes fixed on something Elijah couldn't see. "Baby girl, you need to eat." "I'm not hungry." Elijah knelt beside her chair, put his hand on hers, small fingers cold despite the apartment heat. "What's wrong?" Maya's eyes met his, 7 years old with the weight of someone much older. "Yesterday at school, Mrs. Patterson showed us a video on her phone. She said it was funny." Elijah's stomach dropped. "What video?" "You, on your knees, cleaning up coffee." Maya's voice stayed flat, empty. "Everyone laughed. Mrs. Patterson said that's what happens when people don't go to college." The oatmeal sat between them, growing colder, like the space opening up in Elijah's chest. "Mrs. Patterson is your teacher." Maya nodded, and she showed the whole class. She said it was a lesson, about working hard in school. Elijah stood slowly, not fast, not angry, just deliberate. Get your coat. But I haven't eaten. We'll get breakfast after. We're going to school early today. They walked the 15 blocks in silence, Maya's hand in his, the morning frost making their breath visible, cars passing them, warm cars, people who didn't use their children as object lessons. Martin Luther King Elementary stood quiet at 7:15 a.m., early enough that only teachers had arrived, late enough that the doors were unlocked. Elijah found Mrs. Patterson in her classroom, 42 years old, white, drinking Starbucks coffee that cost more than Maya's lunch money for a week. She looked up when Elijah entered. Her smile faltered. Mr. Cross, Maya isn't supposed to arrive until... You showed my daughter a video of me, Mrs. Patterson's hand tightened on her coffee cup. It was a teaching moment about the importance of education. You humiliated a 7-year-old girl to make a point about college. I was illustrating consequences. The consequence is you terrorized my daughter. Elijah's voice stayed quiet, the kind that made people nervous. The consequence is she didn't sleep last night, didn't eat this morning, because her teacher decided to use her father as a cautionary tale. Mrs. Patterson stood, tried to create distance. Her desk blocked her path. Mr. Cross, I understand you're upset, but do you have children, Mrs. Patterson? The question caught her off guard. That's not relevant. Do you have children? No. Then you don't understand. Elijah moved closer, not threatening, just present. You don't understand what it's like to sacrifice everything so your child can have a chance. You don't understand working 3 jobs, skipping meals, choosing between electricity and medication. I was trying to motivate my students by destroying one of them. Maya stood in the doorway, watching, learning. Mrs. Patterson's face flushed. I'll be reporting this conversation to Principal Whitmore. Good. Save me the trouble of finding his office. Elijah took Maya's hand, led her out of the classroom, down the hallway, to the administrative wing. Principal Whitmore sat behind a desk that cost more than Elijah made in 2 months. 60 years old, the kind of white man who'd never missed a meal or a mortgage payment. Mr. Cross, his voice carried the exhaustion of someone who'd had this conversation before. I assume this is about the tuition. This is about your teacher humiliating my daughter. Whitmore's expression didn't change. Mrs. Patterson mentioned you might visit. She called you already? She texted me while you were walking down the hall. Whitmore folded his hands. Mr. Cross, I understand emotions are high, but threatening staff members, I didn't threaten anyone. Mrs. Patterson felt threatened. Mrs. Patterson felt guilty. There's a difference. Whitmore sighed, pulled out a file, Maya's file. Your daughter is on academic probation. The tuition is 4 months past due. You've missed 3 parent-teacher conferences, and now you're creating disruptions during school hours. My daughter is on probation because she punched a boy who called me a loser. Violence is never... He was right. Elijah's voice cut through the principal's speech. I am a loser. I clean toilets for $15 an hour. I can't afford my daughter's tuition. Can't afford new shoes. Can't afford the therapy she needs because her classmates torture her. Whitmore looked uncomfortable. Mr. Cross, but I'm her father, and I'm doing my best, and your teacher took my best and turned it into a joke for 26 7-year-olds to laugh at. Silence filled the office. Maya stood beside her father, small hand gripping his larger one. I'll speak with Mrs. Patterson, Whitmore said finally, about appropriate boundaries. You'll do more than speak. Mr. Cross, I can't fire a teacher because you can require her to apologize to my daughter. In front of the same class, she humiliated her in. Whitmore opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Maya. I'll arrange it. Today. Mr. Cross, today. Or I'm contacting every parent in that classroom and explaining exactly what lesson Mrs. Patterson was teaching. Whitmore's jaw tightened. Fine. Today. Principal Whitmore called assembly. 26 second graders gathered in Mrs. Patterson's classroom. Confused, curious, some excited by the disruption to routine. Mrs. Patterson stood at the front, pale, uncomfortable, Principal Whitmore beside her. Maya sat in her usual desk, third row, left side, near the window where she often stared outside during lessons. Class, Whitmore began. Mrs. Patterson has something to say. The teacher cleared her throat, looked at the floor, at the ceiling. Anywhere but at the children. I made a mistake this week. I showed you a video that hurt one of your classmates. Maya's father works very hard. His job is honorable. I was wrong to use him as a bad example. She finally looked at Maya. I'm sorry, Maya. What I did was cruel. Maya stood, small voice but clear. My daddy says apologies have to grow into actions. Mrs. Patterson blinked. You're right. So I'm also apologizing to your father and changing how I teach. The classroom was silent. Then a student in the front row raised his hand. Brandon, the boy who'd started the teasing. My mom cleans houses. Is that bad? No, Mrs. Patterson said firmly. All honest work has dignity. I was wrong to suggest otherwise. Another hand. Emily. My dad drives a truck. That's honorable work too. One by one, students shared what their parents did. Cafeteria worker, construction, retail, factory, jobs. Mrs. Patterson had implicitly devalued by using Elijah as a cautionary tale. The teacher listened, really listened. Maybe for the first time seeing her students as humans instead of test scores. When the last child spoke, Mrs. Patterson looked at Maya again. Thank you for teaching me something today. You're wiser than I am. Maya nodded, sat down. The apology wasn't perfect, but it was public, it was witnessed. It would grow into action or it wouldn't. Either way, the humiliation had been acknowledged. The rooftop was empty at 11:47 p.m. Security had made their rounds at 11:30, wouldn't return until 12:15. Elijah had 28 minutes. The Sikorsky S-76 sat silent under stars dimmed by city lights. $3 million of machinery that would become a coffin in 2 days. Unless Elijah stopped it. He carried a gallon jug of MIL PRF 83282 hydraulic fluid, purchased with cash from an aviation supply store 40 miles away. Used a fake name, paid extra to avoid security cameras. The maintenance panel opened easily, same 3 fasteners. Quarter turn each. The hydraulic reservoir held 4 gallons, currently contaminated with a compound that would crystallize at altitude, kill Victoria Ashford the same way it killed her father. Elijah couldn't just add clean fluid. That would raise the level 25%. Graham would notice during his next inspection, but he could replace it. Carefully using a siphon pump, Elijah drained 1 gallon of contaminated fluid into a waste container, then added 1 gallon of clean fluid. The level stayed the same. The mixture changed. 3 gallons contaminated, 1 gallon clean, a 25% dilution. Elijah did the math in his head. Chemistry he'd learned in warrant officer training. Formulas for fluid dynamics and temperature thresholds. Original mixture crystallized at -5 degrees Fahrenheit. 10,000 feet altitude. New mixture would crystallize at approximately 32 degrees. 3,000 feet altitude. Still a failure. Still dangerous, but survivable. If Victoria could handle an emergency auto-rotation, if she remembered her training, if she didn't panic when the controls locked up. It was a gamble, but better odds than certain death. Elijah closed the reservoir, sealed the maintenance panel. 3/4 turns, everything exactly as he'd found it. Except now Victoria Ashford had a chance. If she could recognize the failure. If she could execute the procedures, if she stayed calm for 90 seconds while falling from the sky. But that wasn't enough. Victoria was a decent pilot. Jonathan had taught her well. But decent wasn't enough for hydraulic failure. She needed perfect. She needed expert. She needed step-by-step instructions. Elijah couldn't be in the helicopter with her. Couldn't talk her through it. Couldn't take the controls, but he could give her a roadmap. He descended from the roof, went to the janitorial closet, unlocked the door, sat at the ancient computer, opened a blank document, started typing. Emergency procedures, hydraulic failure time from failure to impact. 90-120 seconds, step 1. Recognize failure. Controls become stiff. Hydraulic pressure gauge drops to 0. Warning light illuminates red center console. Pedal and cyclic resistance increases dramatically. Do not panic. You have time if you act immediately. Step 2. Establish auto-rotation. Collective down immediately, full down. Maintain rotor RPM between 97 to 102%. This is critical. Below 97% you fall above, 102% you overspeed and damage rotors. Airspeed 60-70 knots ideal. Step 3. Find your landing zone. Look for open space now. Avoid wires, buildings, trees, water. Good options: parks, fields, parking lots, wide roads. You have 60-90 seconds to choose. Commit early. Step 4. Manage your descent. Use cyclic for forward motion and direction. Adjust collective minimally to maintain RPM. Do not try to climb or hover. Impossible without hydraulics. Glide ratio approximately 4:1. Descend 1 foot for every 4 feet forward. Step 5. Final approach. Begin flare at 40-50 feet AGL above ground level. Pull back hard on cyclic to slow forward speed. This will cost you altitude quickly. Timing is everything. Nose will pitch up 15-20 degrees. Step 6. Touchdown. At 8-10 feet, level the aircraft, push cyclic forward. Cushion landing with full collective pull. Use all remaining rotor energy to soften impact. Keep weight on skids, not tail rotor. After touchdown, collective down. Close throttle, remember. You've trained for this. The helicopter wants to auto-rotate, let it. Smooth inputs, jerking kills you. Trust the physics, rotors will keep spinning if you maintain airspeed. Ground contact will be hard but survivable if you follow these steps. You can do this. Trust your training. Trust the aircraft. Trust yourself. Elijah read it 3 times. Added details, removed unnecessary words, made it clear, concise, something someone could read and execute in 90 seconds of pure terror. He printed 8 copies on the old laser printer, folded them carefully, put them in his pocket along with his Night Stalker challenge coin. Tomorrow he'd find a way to get them into the helicopter. Into Victoria's hands. Give her the knowledge she needed to survive. But tonight he needed to do one more thing. He pulled out a burner phone, bought with cash 3 days ago from a convenience store that didn't have cameras. Dialed a number he'd memorized but never called. 7 years since last contact. 2 rings. Morrison. Sir, it's Chief Cross. Pause. Long enough that Elijah thought the connection had dropped. Elijah, Jesus Christ, where are you? Boston, working as a janitor. Sir, I need help. Corporate murder, organized crime, military contract fraud. Slow down, start from the beginning. Elijah told him everything. Jonathan's video, Graham's confession overheard through the wall, the Torino family, the sabotage, the insurance policies, the evidence hidden in the supply invoice folder. Morrison listened without interrupting. When Elijah finished, silence. Send me everything you have. I'll mobilize FBI by morning. There's a complication, sir. They're threatening my daughter. We'll protect her. You have my word. Give me her school address. Elijah provided it. Martin Luther King Elementary, third floor classroom, Mrs. Patterson's room. We'll have agents there by 7 a.m. Plain clothes, your daughter won't know, but she'll be safe. Thank you, sir. Elijah, what you're doing, taking this on alone, it's brave, but it's also stupid. I know, sir. If this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, you call me. Immediately, don't try to be a hero. I'm not a hero, sir. I'm just a janitor who pays attention. Morrison laughed, short, bitter. You were never just anything, Chief. See you on the other side. The call ended. Elijah threw the phone in the dumpster behind the building, smashed it first with a brick. No evidence. No trails. The FBI was coming. Protection for Maya. Justice for Jonathan. Consequences for Graham and the Torinos. All of it hinged on Victoria surviving Saturday's flight. Elijah walked home. 15 blocks. Cold March air. Stars barely visible through light pollution. He climbed the stairs to his apartment. Third floor, no elevator. The building was older than he was. Maya slept peacefully, stuffed elephant clutched tight, unaware that FBI agents would shadow her tomorrow, unaware that her father had just set in motion events that would either save lives or end them. Elijah pulled out his medication. Sertraline 100 milliliters. The pills that kept the nightmares manageable. Barely. He swallowed one dry, lay down on the pull-out couch, closed his eyes. The faces appeared anyway. The village outside Fallujah, Operation Bright Dawn, April 17th, 2018, the white Toyota, the missile strike, the explosion, the screaming children, the silence after. Elijah had reported himself within hours, could have buried it. Everyone said so. Bad intel happened. Fog of war. Acceptable losses in the greater mission. But those children weren't acceptable. Their deaths weren't statistics, they were souls, lives, futures erased by his mistake. He'd lost everything. Flight status, career, identity, the ability to look at himself without seeing their faces. But he'd kept his integrity, kept his humanity, kept the knowledge that truth mattered more than comfort. That's what Jonathan had seen, not the decorated pilot, the broken man who chose righteousness over self-preservation. And now that broken man had 40 hours to save someone who'd treated him as worthless. Elijah's phone buzzed. 3:17 a.m. Text message. Unknown number. Last warning. Back off or the girl pays. Below the text, a photo. Not Maya's bedroom window. Not the school. The building across the street from their apartment. Third floor. Window with a clear sightline into Maya's room. The photo showed Maya sleeping. Taken with a telephoto lens. Recent. Tonight. Someone was watching. Right now. From 80 feet away. Every instinct in Elijah's body screamed. Grab Maya. Run. Disappear. Keep her safe, the only way that mattered. But running wouldn't stop the Torinos. Wouldn't save Victoria. Wouldn't honor Jonathan's trust. And Morrison had promised protection. FBI agents would be at the school in 4 hours. Elijah stood, walked to Maya's room, checked the window, drew the curtains tight. Not much, but something. He sat on the edge of her bed, watched her sleep, small chest rising and falling. Innocent. Unaware that evil men were using her as leverage. I'm sorry, baby girl, he whispered, for bringing this to our door, for risking you to save someone else. Maya stirred, didn't wake, clutched her elephant tighter. But your daddy can't let good people die. Even mean people, even people who hurt me, because if I do, I'm no better than the men who threaten little girls. He kissed her forehead, returned to the couch. 36 hours until Victoria's flight. 36 hours to protect his daughter while saving a woman who didn't know she needed saving. 36 hours until everything changed. Elijah didn't sleep the rest of the night. Couldn't sleep. Stayed awake. Watching the window. Watching for movement in the building across the street. Protecting the only thing that mattered. The day arrived cold and clear. Perfect flying weather. Zero cloud ceiling. Visibility unlimited. The kind of day pilots dreamed about. The kind of day people died on because the weather wasn't the problem. Elijah had been awake since 300 a.m. Maya slept until 6:30. He made her pancakes, the cheap mix from the food bank, but he added chocolate chips, splurged on a $4 bag because today might be the last normal day they had. "Why are you making special breakfast?" Maya asked through a mouthful of pancake. "Can't a father make his daughter pancakes?" "You only make pancakes on my birthday." Smart kid. Too smart. Consider it an early birthday. My birthday is in August. Then consider it a late birthday, from last year. Maya smiled, syrup on her chin. 7 years old and the only thing keeping Elijah tethered to a world that kept trying to drown him. He walked her to school at 7:30, 15 blocks, their routine. Elijah noticed them immediately. 2 adults who didn't belong, one in a car across the street reading a newspaper, one on a bench pretending to check a phone. FBI. Plain clothes, exactly as Morrison promised. Maya didn't notice. Talked about a book she was reading, about a girl who discovered she had magical powers, could do things nobody thought possible. "Do you think magic is real, Daddy?" "I think people can do impossible things when they have to." "Like what?" "Like love someone so much you'd do anything to keep them safe." Maya squeezed his hand. "I love you too, Daddy." They reached Martin Luther King Elementary at 7:52. Elijah knelt, straightened her collar, made sure her coat was zipped. "Remember what I told you. Be kind, work hard, don't fight back. And if anyone weird talks to me, scream and run to Mrs. Henderson." He drilled this into her for 2 days. Mrs. Henderson was the school secretary, 68 years old, former Marine, the only person in that building Elijah trusted completely. "Good girl." He hugged her, held her longer than usual. "Daddy, are you okay?" "I'm perfect because I have you." She pulled back, looked at him with eyes too wise for 7. "You're scared." "Daddies don't get scared." "Liar." Elijah laughed despite everything. "Okay, maybe a little scared, but that's okay. Scared means I care." "About what?" "About doing the right thing." Maya nodded like she understood. Maybe she did. "I love you, Daddy. I love you more, baby girl." She walked toward the school, stopped, turned back. "Daddy." "Whatever you're scared about, you'll do the right thing. You always do." Then she was gone, into the building, into a day that would unfold without him. Elijah stood on the sidewalk, caught the eye of the FBI agent on the bench. The man nodded slightly. "Message received, we've got her." His phone showed 7:58 a.m. Victoria's flight was scheduled for 8:20. 22 minutes. He walked to the bus stop, waited 8 minutes. The bus arrived. $2. The ride to Ashford Tower took 38 minutes. Too long, but he couldn't afford a cab, couldn't risk showing up in anything but his usual pattern. The Torinos were watching. Had to be. Couldn't give them any reason to suspect he was anything but the janitor they thought he was. 8:36. Elijah entered Ashford Tower through the loading dock. Clocked in. Grabbed his cart. The executive floor buzzed with activity. Victoria's assistant rushing around, preparing documents for the Boston meeting. $500 million deal, the future of Ashford Aerospace. Elijah pushed his cart slowly, deliberately, the invisible janitor doing invisible work. Victoria emerged from her office at 8:41. Flight suit, designer, fitted perfectly. $3,000 of Nomex and ego. She looked confident, prepared, completely unaware she had 39 minutes to live, unless Elijah stopped it. The emergency procedures were folded in his pocket. 8 pages, step-by-step instructions, his Night Stalker challenge coin tucked in with them. But he needed to get them into the helicopter without anyone seeing, without Victoria dismissing them, without Graham discovering them. The plan was simple, relied on Victoria's predictability. Every morning she drank coffee, venti americano, 4 shots espresso, no cream, no sugar. Her assistant carried it on a silver tray, approaching Victoria now. 8:43 a.m. Elijah pushed his cart, timed his movement, bumped into the assistant, accidentally, deliberately, perfectly. The coffee exploded, splashed across Victoria's flight suit, her face, her perfectly styled hair. "You fucking idiot!" Victoria screamed. Coffee dripped from her chin, stained the white Nomex brown. The assistant stammered apologies. Victoria ignored her, focused on Elijah. "You, again, always you." "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't see." "You never see. That's your entire existence. Not seeing, not thinking, not being anything useful." Elijah stood silent. Let her rage. This was the plan. This was necessary. "I have to fly in 20 minutes. This suit is ruined. Do you understand what you've done?" "There's a spare in your office," her assistant offered. "The backup flight suit. Then get it. Now." The assistant ran. Victoria stood dripping coffee. Executives gathered. Phones emerged. The lobby became a documentary. Every angle covered. "You're done," Victoria said. "Fired. Security will escort you out." "Yes, ma'am." She stormed off, headed to her private bathroom to clean up. Change suits, redo makeup. The delay would be exactly 23 minutes. Elijah had timed it perfectly. While she changed, he had a window. Small, narrow, enough. He pushed his cart to the service elevator. Rode to the roof. The security guard was on break. Elijah had memorized his schedule. The helicopter sat waiting, rotors still, patient, deadly. Elijah opened the door, placed the folded emergency procedures on the pilot's seat, placed his Night Stalker challenge coin on top. The brass caught the morning sun, the emblem of the 160th SOAR, visible, unmistakable. If Victoria saw it, she'd know, would understand the janitor wasn't just a janitor, might read the instructions, might survive, might. Elijah also placed his phone under the co-pilot seat, recording app activated. If Graham confessed again, there'd be evidence. If something went wrong, there'd be a record. Everything was in place. Elijah descended, returned to the janitorial closet, changed out of his coffee-stained uniform into the spare he kept in his locker. 8:59 a.m. Victoria would discover the papers in approximately 15 minutes. His part was done. The rest was up to her. Elijah sat in the closet, waited. His phone's clone showed the tracking app he'd installed on Victoria's helicopter 2 days ago. The helicopter had a GPS transponder. Required by FAA. Transmitted position every 30 seconds. He could watch her flight, watch the altitude, know exactly when the hydraulics failed, know exactly if his modification worked. 9:14 a.m. The GPS showed movement. The helicopter was lifting off. Elijah's pulse quickened, but his breathing stayed even. Combat discipline, the body preparing for violence even though he sat in a closet. The helicopter climbed, 500 feet, 1,000, 1,500. Elijah watched the altitude number increase, each foot bringing Victoria closer to the moment of truth. 2,000 feet, 2,500. His breathing slowed, controlled, the way that kept you alive when everything fell apart. 2,800 feet. The GPS stopped updating. Elijah stared at the screen. Refreshed. Nothing. No new data. Either the transponder failed or the helicopter had. He stood, paced the small closet, 5 feet by 7 feet, too small, suffocating. His phone rang. Not the tracking app. A call, unknown number. He answered. Graham Westfield's voice, panicked, crying. What did you do? She's supposed to be at 10,000 feet. Why is she at 2,800? I don't know what you're talking about. The hydraulics. They failed too early. Graham's voice broke. She's trying to land. Riverside Park. She's actually trying to land. How does she know what to do? Elijah said nothing. You did something. You changed it. Graham stopped. Understanding dawned. You're not just a janitor. No. Who are you? Someone who pays attention. Elijah hung up, grabbed his jacket, ran. Riverside Park was 4 blocks away. He could make it. Could see if she survived. Could help if she didn't. The streets blurred. People, cars, obstacles. Elijah ran through them, around them. Former combat pilot in a janitor's uniform running toward a helicopter crash. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called 911, emergency services responding. Elijah reached the park at 9:21 a.m., 7 minutes after takeoff. The helicopter sat in the middle of a soccer field, rotors still spinning, slowing. The Sikorsky tilted slightly to one side, landing gear bent, but intact, survivable. The pilot's door opened. Victoria Ashford climbed out, shaking, pale, alive. She stood next to the helicopter, looked up at the sky she'd just fallen from, then down at her hands. They held 8 pages of emergency procedures and a brass challenge coin. Elijah stopped running, stood at the park's edge, watching, making sure. Paramedics arrived, police, fire trucks, the machinery of emergency response. Victoria showed them the papers, explained what happened, pointed at the coin. One of the paramedics looked at it, showed it to a police officer. The officer's expression changed. Recognition. Respect. Night Stalkers were legendary. Every military member knew the emblem. The officer looked around, searching for someone, for the person who'd left those instructions, the person who'd saved Victoria's life. Elijah turned, walked away, back toward Ashford Tower, back to his closet and his mop and his invisibility. He'd done what Jonathan asked, protected the daughter, saved her life. Now came the consequences. Saturday, March 18th, 9:30 a.m. The building erupted. Emergency alerts flooded every screen. Victoria Ashford's helicopter down. Riverside Park, status unknown. Emergency services responding. Executives ran. Assistants screamed. The carefully ordered world of corporate hierarchy dissolved into chaos. Elijah walked through it, a janitor pushing his cart while the empire crumbled around him. He reached the executive floor. The boardroom doors stood open. Graham Westfield sat inside, alone, hands cuffed behind his back. 2 FBI agents flanked him. Becca Harlow stood near the window, phone pressed to her ear, her face pale. "She's alive," Becca said into the phone. "Paramedics confirmed, shaken but alive." Graham's head dropped. Relief or despair, maybe both. The FBI agent on the left noticed Elijah. "Sir, this floor is restricted." "I work here." "Not anymore." The agent stepped forward. "Building's on lockdown. Everyone not essential personnel needs to leave." Becca turned, saw Elijah. Something passed across her face, recognition, understanding. "He stays," she said. "He's essential." "Ma'am, I have orders." "From whom?" "The CEO who just crashed the CFO under arrest." Becca's voice carried authority Elijah had never heard before. "I'm the highest-ranking officer in this building right now. He stays." The agent backed down. Elijah pushed his cart to the corner, began emptying trash cans. The FBI agents watched him for 30 seconds, then dismissed him. Just the janitor. No threat. Graham looked up. His eyes found Elijah's, held them. "You," Graham whispered. The agents turned. "You know this man? He's nobody. Just the... Graham stopped, realization spreading across his face like poison. You called them. The FBI. You're the one who... The boardroom doors burst open. Victoria Ashford entered, flight suit torn, hair wild, face streaked with dirt and hydraulic fluid. She moved like someone who'd just survived the impossible, like someone reborn. Behind her, 3 more FBI agents, a colonel in army uniform, the building's head of security. Victoria's eyes swept the room, passed over Graham, over Becca, stopped on Elijah. Where is Elijah Cross? The FBI agents looked confused. Graham flinched. Becca pointed. There. Victoria walked toward him, each step deliberate, measured. The executives who'd followed her into the room pulled out their devices. 47 witnesses, 47 digital archives. Elijah straightened, set down the trash can, waited. Victoria stopped 3 feet away, held out her hand. In her palm, the Night Stalker challenge coin, brass worn smooth, the emblem of the 160th SOAR catching the fluorescent lights. This is yours. Yes, ma'am. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Elijah Cross, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Her voice shook slightly. The janitor who can't be just a janitor. The room went silent. How did you know? Victoria asked. About the hydraulics, about Graham, about the sabotage. Elijah said nothing, looked at Graham, at the FBI agents, at Becca standing near the window. Your father told me. My father died 6 months ago. He left a video, insurance, instructions. Elijah met her eyes. He hired me 3 years ago, not to clean floors, to watch, to protect you from threats you couldn't see. Victoria's hand closed around the coin. You've been protecting me for 3 years, trying to, while I treated you like... Her voice broke. While I made you kneel, humiliated you, destroyed you on camera. You didn't destroy me, ma'am, you just revealed yourself. One of the FBI agents stepped forward. Mr. Cross, I'm Special Agent Morrison. We have questions. I have answers. Did you sabotage Ms. Ashford's helicopter? No. I modified someone else's sabotage. Every eye in the room turned to Graham. Mr. Westfield has already confessed, Morrison said, to tampering with hydraulic systems, to insurance fraud, to conspiracy to commit murder. Graham's shoulders shook. They have my daughter, the Torinos. They know which window is her bedroom. They sent me photos of her sleeping, photos of her school route, photos of her at the playground. I had no choice. There's always a choice, Elijah said quietly. Easy for you to say. You don't have a child. I have a daughter, 7 years old. They sent me photos too, threatened her, told me to back off or she'd visit the hospital. Showed me telephoto shots of her bedroom taken from the building across the street. The room went colder. And you still... Graham looked at Elijah with something between hatred and awe. You still saved Victoria anyway. Wasn't about saving her. Was about doing what's right. Victoria stepped closer. Those instructions. 8 pages of emergency procedures. You wrote them? Yes, ma'am. How did you know what to write? Elijah pulled out his phone, opened his photos, showed her his military ID. The one he kept for VA appointments, the one that proved who he used to be. Victoria stared at the photo. Young Elijah, 26 years old, dress uniform, medals across his chest, Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Medal, Purple Heart. You're a combat pilot. Was. What happened? Elijah's jaw tightened. Iraq, 2018, bad intelligence, wrong target. He paused. I killed a family, father, mother, 4 children, ages 6 to 13, reported myself, lost flight status, medical discharge. But you still knew how to save me. Training doesn't leave, even when everything else does. Becca moved from the window, pulled out a tablet, showed it to Victoria. Your father's final instructions, he left them with me. Told me if anything happened to him, I should give them to Elijah. Victoria read. Her face shifted. Understanding. Grief. Something else Elijah couldn't name. He knew, she whispered. Dad knew Graham was compromised. Knew the Torinos wanted him dead. Knew they'd come for me next. He tried to protect you the only way he could, Becca said. By hiring someone who couldn't be bought, couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be broken. Victoria looked at Elijah, really looked, the way she should have 3 years ago. You could have let me die. After everything I did to you, the humiliation, the cruelty, you could have just walked away. No, ma'am, I couldn't. Why not? Because your father asked me to protect you. Elijah's voice dropped. And because those children I killed in Iraq, I can't bring them back. Can't undo that mistake. But I can make sure nobody else dies if I can stop it. Victoria's eyes filled. She turned away, wiped them, turned back. Morrison cleared his throat. We need statements from everyone, but first, he looked at Elijah. Chief Cross, I'm Colonel James Morrison, your former battalion commander, 160th SOAR. Elijah stood straighter. Sir, I kept tabs on you after discharge, made sure you were okay, or as okay as you could be. Morrison's voice softened. What you did, reporting yourself for Fallujah, taking responsibility when you could have buried it, that took more courage than any combat mission. It got people killed, sir. Bad intel got people killed. You were following orders, but you owned it anyway, lost everything to do the right thing. Morrison looked at Victoria. That's why Jonathan hired him. Graham spoke through tears. My daughter, Emma, they'll kill her. The Torinos don't forgive, they don't forget. Emma and your wife are already in protective custody, Morrison said. Have been since Thursday morning. New identities, new city. They're safe. But I won't see them. No, you won't. Not for a long time. Morrison's voice held no sympathy. You should have come to us earlier, Mr. Westfield, before you killed Jonathan Ashford. I didn't kill him, I just didn't warn him. Same thing. The agents lifted Graham from his chair, led him toward the door. He looked back at Elijah. I'm sorry for the threats, for your daughter, for everything. Elijah said nothing. Graham didn't deserve words. The boardroom emptied slowly. FBI agents, security, executives, everyone except Victoria, Becca, Morrison, and Elijah. I need air, Victoria said. Rooftop. They took the elevator. 4 people in silence. 53 floors. The doors opened to cold wind and pale sunlight, the same rooftop where this started, where Victoria threw helicopter keys at Elijah's feet 5 days ago, where humiliation became viral content. Now they stood as something different, not equals, not yet, but closer. Victoria walked to the edge, looked down at the city, at Riverside Park 4 blocks away where her helicopter sat surrounded by emergency vehicles. I could have died. Yes, ma'am. Should have died if you hadn't. She turned. Why did you save me? Told you. Your father asked me to. My father's dead. You could have ignored a dead man's request. Elijah moved to stand beside her, not too close, maintaining distance. Your father saw something in me. Integrity, humanity, whatever. He saw it when I couldn't see it myself. Elijah's voice stayed quiet. Least I could do was honor that. Protect what he loved. Even when she didn't deserve it. Everyone deserves not to die, ma'am. Even cruel people. Victoria pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, showed Elijah the video from Monday. The coffee spill, him on his knees. 4 million views now. 4 million people watched me destroy you. You didn't destroy me. You revealed yourself. I became everything my father feared. Cold, cruel, arrogant. He hired you to protect me from threats, but I became the threat. You became what grief made you. That's not an excuse. No, but it's an explanation. Becca approached from behind. Victoria, there are reporters downstairs, 30 of them. They want a statement. Tell them. Victoria stopped. Tell them I need a minute. Becca nodded, retreated. Victoria turned to Elijah. I need to do something, and I need witnesses. She knelt, right there on the rooftop, same concrete where Elijah had stood 5 days ago. Where keys had hit the ground, where laughter had echoed. Her knees touched the surface. Designer flight suit torn and stained, hair wild, face dirty. But her eyes clear. I'm sorry. Elijah stared down at her. Stand up. Not until you accept my apology. I told you, apologies are words. Words are cheap. Then tell me what isn't cheap. Tell me how to make this right. You can't. The video has 4 million views. The damage is done. Then let me do something. Anything. Elijah took a breath, let it out slow. Stand up. Kneeling doesn't fix anything. It's just another performance for cameras. Victoria stood slowly. Her knees ached. Then what does fix it? Change. Real change. Not gestures. Not PR stunts. Actual transformation of how you treat people. Tell me how. Elijah pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. Maya, his daughter, 7 years old, smiling despite holes in her shoes. That's my daughter, Maya. She goes to a public school where teachers used me as a cautionary tale, where kids bullied her because her father cleans toilets, where I can't afford tuition or new shoes or the therapy she needs. Victoria looked at the photo. She's beautiful. She's everything, and she suffers because the world values money over humanity. Values degrees over character. Values appearance over substance. I can't change the world. You can change this company, change how you hire, how you pay, how you treat the people who make your empire possible. $30 minimum wage, full benefits, educational assistance. It's a start. What else? Respect. Zero tolerance for anyone who treats support staff as lesser. Fire them. Executives, managers, anyone. That's going to cost millions. Your life is worth millions. She couldn't argue with that. Morrison approached. Ms. Ashford, we need your statement about the crash, about Graham, about everything. Give me an hour. Ma'am, 1 hour. I need to make this right first. Morrison looked at Elijah. Something passed between them. Military recognition, officer to officer. 1 hour. Morrison agreed. Saturday, March 18th, 11:47 a.m. They descended, took the elevator to the executive floor. Word had spread. Employees gathered, whispers filling the marble lobby. Victoria walked to the center, the same floor where she'd poured coffee 5 days ago, where Elijah had knelt. This time she was the one kneeling. Metaphorically. Everyone listen, her voice carried. I need to make an announcement. The whisper stopped. 47 people formed a circle, just like Monday, but different. Everything different. 5 days ago, I humiliated a man in this lobby, made him kneel, made him clean up my deliberate mess. 4 million people watched. Someone coughed, uncomfortable silence. That man saved my life this morning, prevented my helicopter from killing me the same way my father was killed. He did this despite my cruelty, despite my arrogance, despite every reason to let me die. Victoria's voice grew stronger. His name is Elijah Cross, Chief Warrant Officer 3, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, combat veteran, decorated pilot. And for 3 years he pushed a mop through this building while I treated him as invisible. She turned, looked at Elijah standing near the wall. My father hired him to protect me, not from outside threats, from myself, from becoming the kind of person who values status over humanity. Tears now, real ones. I failed Dad, failed myself, failed every person in this building who deserves dignity. Victoria pulled out papers, copies of new policies she'd drafted in the elevator. Effective immediately, $30 minimum wage for all staff. Full medical benefits, mental health coverage with zero copays, educational assistance up to $50,000 per year. Gasps, murmurs, disbelief. Furthermore, zero tolerance policy. Anyone caught treating support staff as inferior will be terminated. No warnings, no second chances, dignity is non-negotiable. She looked around the lobby. This company was built by my father, a good man who understood that wealth means nothing without character. I forgot that. Elijah reminded me. Victoria walked toward Elijah, stopped in front of him. I'm offering you Chief of Flight Safety. $75,000 salary, but that's not enough. She paused. I'm also establishing the Jonathan Ashford Foundation, free flight training for veterans with PTSD, to help them reclaim their wings. Ma'am, you'll run it. Full control, we'll fund it completely, and Maya, your daughter, full scholarship to Ashford Academy, everything paid. I can't accept. Yes, you can, because it's not charity, it's restitution. The lobby erupted. Applause. Real applause. From people who understood they'd just witnessed transformation. Elijah stood silent, processing. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. I need to pick up my daughter from school in 4 hours. Then you have 4 hours. Elijah nodded, walked toward the service elevator, stopped, turned back. One condition. Anything. The foundation. First class of students, 12 veterans, I choose them myself. Agreed. And you learn to fly again, properly, from me, so you never depend on anyone else to save you. Victoria smiled. First genuine smile in 6 months. Agreed. The Ashford Tower lobby had changed. New photos on the walls, not executives, employees, all employees, security guards, maintenance workers, cafeteria staff, each photo with a name and a story. Marcus Williams, security, former Marine, served 3 tours in Afghanistan. David Thompson, maintenance, single father of 2, night school for electrical engineering. Patricia Johnson, cafeteria, 30 years service, raised 5 kids on her salary, all college graduates. Dignity in frames. Elijah stood in the lobby at 9:00 a.m., not as a janitor, as chief of flight safety, button-down shirt, slacks, badge that read executive staff. Still felt wrong, like wearing someone else's clothes. Maya held his hand, 7 years old in a new uniform, Ashford Academy colors, blue blazer, plaid skirt, shoes without holes. Daddy, this place is big. Yes, it is. Is this where you work now? This is it. Do you still clean toilets? No, baby, now I make sure airplanes are safe. That's better than toilets. Elijah smiled. Much better. Victoria emerged from the elevator. Professional dress, but different, softer somehow. Maya, she knelt to the girl's level. I'm Victoria, I work with your dad. Maya looked at her, assessed her the way children do. You're pretty. Thank you. You're beautiful. Daddy says that too. Maya leaned closer, whispered loudly. Did you really make him clean up coffee? Victoria's face fell. I did. It was wrong. I'm sorry. Did you apologize to him? I tried. He said apologies are just words. Maya nodded seriously. Daddy says that a lot. He says words are cheap, actions matter. Your dad is very wise. I know. Victoria stood, looked at Elijah. The foundation launches today. First class of 12 veterans. Are you ready? As ready as I'll be. They walked to the conference room. Becca had arranged everything. 12 chairs, 12 folders, 12 veterans who'd lost their wings to PTSD and thought they'd never fly again. The veterans arrived at 9:30, ages ranging from 28 to 56. Different branches, different wars, same broken look in their eyes. Elijah knew that look. Saw it in the mirror every morning. He stood at the front of the room, 12 pairs of eyes on him, waiting. My name is Elijah Cross, Chief Warrant Officer 3, retired 160th SOAR. Recognition flickered. I killed civilians in Iraq, family of 6, wrong target, bad intel. He paused. Doesn't matter whose fault it was, they died because of my mistake. The room went silent. I reported myself, lost flight status, medical discharge, PTSD, depression. The whole package. Elijah pulled out his medication bottle. Sertraline, 100 milligrams. Take it every night so I can sleep. He set the bottle on the table. I'm telling you this because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking you don't deserve to fly again. You're thinking you're broken. Several veterans looked down. You're right. War broke you. It broke me too. That's not coming back. Your innocence, your certainty, your dreamless sleep, gone. Elijah's voice grew stronger. But flight isn't gone. Flying isn't who you were, it's who you are. This program will remind you that broken things can still soar. He opened the first folder. Marcus Rodriguez, former Apache pilot, Kandahar. IED killed your co-pilot. You haven't touched a helicopter in 6 years. Marcus nodded, tears in his eyes. Sarah Martinez, Black Hawk pilot, medevac, lost 3 patients in a crash, discharged for PTSD. Sarah wiped her eyes. One by one, Elijah read their names, their stories, their losses. This program isn't charity, it's training. At the end of 6 months, you'll have commercial pilot certificates, instrument ratings, everything you need. He paused. But more than that, you'll have family. We're building a community of people who understand, who don't judge. Victoria stepped forward. The program is fully funded, housing provided, stipend for expenses, mental health support, whatever you need. Why? Marcus asked. Why are you doing this? Elijah looked at Victoria. She nodded. Because 3 months ago I was a janitor, making $15 an hour, thought I was worthless. Then I saved Victoria's life, used skills I thought I'd never use again, remembered that being broken doesn't mean being useless. He picked up his medication bottle. This doesn't make me weak. It makes me human. Your PTSD doesn't make you less, it makes you survivors. Elijah's voice dropped, quiet but powerful. The war took your wings. This program gives them back. Not because you deserve it, because they were always yours. The room erupted. Questions. Hope. The first real hope some of them had felt in years. 9 months after the crash. December 2024. The graduation ceremony took place on Ashford Tower's rooftop. Same place where Victoria had thrown keys, where Elijah had stood invisible, where humiliation had become viral. Now it held chairs, a podium, 63 people gathered to celebrate, 12 veterans in flight suits, brand new commercial pilot certificates in hand, 9 months of work culminating in this moment. Families filled the seats, spouses, children, parents. Maya sat in the front row, 8 years old now, new dress, hair braided, holding a sign, "My daddy is a hero." Elijah approached the podium, looked out at faces, at stories, at survival. 9 months ago, 12 people walked into a conference room, broken, hurting, certain they'd never fly again. He gestured to the veterans standing in formation. Today, 12 pilots stand before you, not healed, healing, not perfect, present, not unchanged, transformed. Marcus stepped forward. Chief Cross taught us that PTSD doesn't mean weak. It means we survived something that should have killed us. Sarah followed. He taught us that asking for help isn't failure. It's courage. One by one, the veterans shared what they'd learned. Then Victoria stepped to the podium. 9 months ago, I was arrogant, cruel, so consumed by grief that I became a weapon. She looked at Elijah. I made him kneel. humiliated him publicly, treated him as worthless, but Elijah did something I didn't deserve. He saved my life anyway. Victoria's voice strengthened. This foundation isn't about money. It's about restitution for Elijah, for these 12 pilots, for everyone who's been underestimated. She pulled out a check, $10 million, endowment for the Jonathan Ashford Foundation, enough to train hundreds of veterans. The crowd applauded. I'm also announcing 20% of all executive bonuses will be redistributed to support staff. Any executive who objects can resign. Nobody resigned. Elijah returned to the podium. One more thing. These 12 graduates, they're not just pilots, they're the first instructors for Class 2. 60 more veterans starting next month. The 12 stood straighter. This is just the beginning. Maya ran to the podium, hugged Elijah's legs. He lifted her up. This is my daughter, Maya. Everything I do is for her, to show her that good people can struggle and still be good. He set her down. Jonathan Ashford hired me 3 years ago. Saw something in me I couldn't see. He's gone. Can't tell him thank you, but I can honor his memory. By protecting what he loved, by building what he envisioned. The applause lasted 3 minutes, standing ovation, devices capturing this moment too, but different, redemptive, hopeful. 1 year after the crash, March 2025, Riverside Park Memorial stood where Victoria's helicopter had crashed. Bronze plaque, simple inscription. Jonathan Ashford, visionary, father, believer in second chances. Below it, in memory of a man who saw worth where others saw nothing. Elijah stood before the memorial, Maya beside him, 8 years old, taller, confident. Grandpa Jonathan would be proud, she said. He's not your grandpa baby. I know, but he feels like family. Elijah smiled. Yeah, he does. Victoria approached, flight suit on, professional. A year of training had made her an excellent pilot. Ready? She asked. Ready. They walked to the helipad, the same Sikorsky S-76, repaired, recertified, safe. She climbed into the pilot's seat. Elijah took co-pilot, Maya in back. Pre-flight check, Victoria said. Hydraulic pressure. Normal. 1,500 psi. Fuel. Full. 300 gallons. Control response. Smooth. All systems nominal. They'd done this dance 100 times. The rotors spun up. That familiar sound, beautiful now. They lifted off smoothly, climbed to 3,000 feet, the exact altitude where hydraulics had failed a year ago. Victoria's hands stayed steady. You've come far, Elijah said. We've come far. They flew over Boston, over Ashford Tower, over Martin Luther King Elementary. Daddy, Maya's voice crackled. Can I learn to fly someday, baby? Will you teach me if you want? I want. They flew east, over the Atlantic, over water that had swallowed Jonathan's plane. Victoria descended, hovered at 50 feet, pulled out a small urn. Dad's ashes never scattered them, couldn't let go. She opened it, let the wind take them. Goodbye, Daddy. Thank you for Elijah, for seeing what I couldn't, for loving me enough to prepare for the worst. Tears streamed, but she kept flying. Elijah's hand covered hers on the collective. Support, understanding. They climbed, returned to Ashford Tower, landed perfectly. As the rotors wound down, Victoria turned to Elijah. I have something for you. She handed him an envelope. Inside stock certificates, 10% ownership in Ashford Aerospace. I can't. Yes, you can. You saved the company. This is yours, worth approximately $80 million. He stared at the papers. I don't want to be rich. Then don't be. Donate it. Build more foundations, whatever you want. Elijah looked at Maya. What do you think, baby? Maya considered seriously. Help more sad daddies who need to fly again. Smart girl. He turned to Victoria. I'll accept it. One condition. Name it. You fly with me once a year, every year, on this day, to remember your father. Deal. They hugged, Victoria holding Elijah, thanking him for life, for purpose, for transformation. Maya joined, small arms around both, 3 people bound by trauma and healing. The sun set over Boston, orange light painting the sky. Elijah picked up Maya. Ready to go home? Yeah, Daddy. They walked to the elevator. Victoria watched them go. She pulled out her phone, opened the video from a year ago, the coffee spill, 40 million views now. But there was a new video, the graduation, the transformation, 60 million views. Victoria smiled, posted a comment. My father hired a janitor. I found a friend. The world needs more people who see worth where others see nothing. Be that person. She looked at the helicopter, at the memorial, at the foundation building. Jonathan Ashford's legacy wasn't buildings or money. It was Elijah, and 12 pilots and 60 more in training. It was proving that broken things can soar. The frame froze on Victoria standing alone, sunset behind her. Future ahead. White text appeared. The Jonathan Ashford Foundation has trained 347 veterans. Elijah Cross serves as executive director. Maya Cross graduates high school with honors in 2029. Victoria Ashford still flies, every anniversary, with Elijah. Graham Westfield was sentenced to 15 years federal prison, eligible for parole after 7. His testimony brought down 18 Torino family members. Emma and her mother live under new identities. Graham receives letters monthly. He writes back, tries to be a father from behind bars. Mrs. Patterson retired from teaching, volunteers at veteran support groups. Becca Harlow was promoted to Chief Operating Officer. The remaining Torino family members are serving sentences ranging from 12 to 45 years. Maya and Elijah are no longer under threat. Sometimes being humbled is the greatest gift. It shows you who you really are. The screen faded to black. End credits rolled over audio of helicopter rotors. And Maya's voice, Daddy, you're a hero. No baby. I'm just a man who pays attention. Fade out.